Hello and welcome everyone to PW Only IAS English. So we are meeting under the Udaan series for Prelims 2025. In this Indian Polity lecture today, I'm going to take you through these topics: the President, the Vice President and the Governor. So first of all, we will deal with the topic of the President. From the introductory slide itself, you can see who all are included in the topic Union Executive. So President, Vice President, Prime Minister, Central Council of Ministers, the Cabinet Committees and Attorney General of India. So these are the topics that we are going to deal one by one, but today's agenda is going to be President. First of all, these are the questions on the basis of our long-term analysis. We see that every year the presidential election is happening. In that year, a question has appeared before 1 year before the election and 1 year after the election. So you can see this 2007 election was there. Okay, Pratibha Devi Singh Patil. Then 2012 again election was there. Then 2002 Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Every year the question comes whenever there is an election to the office of the President of India. 2012 question came in mains. 2013 question appeared in prelims. So likewise you will see every year the election is there, a question will be there definitely. So this, keeping this trend analysis in mind, and this question will be around the elections only when the elections are around the corner. Keeping this in mind, you should prepare whether the election need to be emphasized upon, whether the ordinance or whether the pardoning sentence. If any pardoning related news is going on related to Article 72, then the death sentence pardoning, what is the process of, what is the difference between the pardoning power of the president and that of the governor, those issues would be asked. Okay, so let's continue without much ado. These are the articles. The President of India, Article 52. Executive power of the Union, Article 53. Election of the President, Article 54. Likewise, manner of the election of the President, Article 55. Even though these articles are not asked in the examination, but they give you an idea as to what is the text of it. By memorizing the article number, you get to recollect, you are able to recollect the entire text behind it, the powers, etc. Some of the articles are important, like procedure for impeachment, Article 61. Then the other articles like pardoning power of the president, Article 72, which is not mentioned here, but we'll talk about it. Now, moving further, Article 52 to 78 in Part 5 talks about, Part 5 deals with the Union. Okay, this Article 52 to 78 talks about the Union Executive. Then Union Executive consists of the President, the Vice President, the Prime Minister, the Council of Ministers and the Attorney General. So this prima facie, this can be the question here on the very face of it, what all is included in the Union Executive. Now coming to the election of the President is elected not directly by the people but by the members of Electoral College. Now here the question can be, why the constitution makers chose the indirect election as the method for choosing our president. Okay, having a president makes India a republic. You must be knowing this. We are a republic because of the reason that we have the president. Now, republic means the directly elected head should be there. Now, moving further, the president's elected electoral college will consist of the elected members of both the houses of the parliament. So, Lok Sabha plus Rajya Sabha. Many students, they nurture this confusion until they get selected or they get eradicated out of the competition. Okay, the elected members of legislative assemblies of the states, the elected members of the legislative assemblies of the union territories of Delhi and Puducherry. So you understand here, elected members of all the state legislative assemblies will participate. Legislative council members do not participate. Union level houses of both the houses of the parliament, nominated members of Rajya Sabha do not participate. Now we do not have the nominated members in Lok Sabha because of the amendment to Article 331. Right now, here legislative assemblies, only 2 legislative assemblies who have MLAs, which have MLAs, Delhi and Puducherry, they participate. Now when it comes to the removal, even though in the selection the nominated members do not participate, but in the removal they do. Okay, in the impeachment, Article 61, in the removal of the president, even the non-elected members, they do participate. But members of Legislative Assembly do not participate. We'll talk more on it when we come to the impeachment part. Points to note for prelims: the nominated members do not participate. Any nominated member, whosoever, whatsoever, of any level whatsoever, will not participate. Nominated members of state legislative assemblies also won't participate. Nominated members of legislative assemblies of Delhi and Puducherry, which have the legislative assemblies, they also do not participate. Now, the members, both elected and nominated, of the state legislative councils, in case of bicameral legislature, do not participate in the election of the president. Okay, so they also do not participate in the election. Where an assembly is dissolved, the members cease to be qualified to vote. Where an assembly is dissolved, the members cease to be qualified to vote. Then, even if the fresh elections to the dissolved assembly are not held, the members cease to be qualified to vote because dissolved assembly. And the simple reason is that election cannot be challenged. The election of the President of India can be challenged only in the Supreme Court. We will talk more about it. And it cannot be challenged for the grounds, for the reason that the Electoral College of the President of India was not complete. Even if it is UP, even if the Legislative Assembly of UP is dissolved, then also the President's office election is held. Even then also, the election cannot be challenged for the want of completion of the Electoral College. Okay. So these points are there. Now, Constitution provides that there shall be uniformity in the scale of representation. Okay, there shall be uniformity in the scale of representation of the different states, as well as the parity between the states as a whole and the union. So, total value of vote of all the MLAs and total value of vote of all the MPs should be equal. Simple meaning is, president is, if the president is here, president is going to be of both the union and the state level equally. Okay, union level and the state level equally. So this is the point here: uniformity in the scale of representation of different states and parity between the states as a whole and the union. So this is the first point: uniformity between Punjab and Haryana. You getting my point? So the people of Haryana should equally choose the president as much as the president is chosen by the people of Punjab, people of UP, right? Because president should be equally of all the states. But that is not the case in reality. So what is the case in reality? Because of increase in the population of the populous states of India, Bihar, UP, etc. So what happened? President became more of the populous states. President is elected more by the North Indian states, we can say in general, than by the South Indian states combined together. Right? Why? Because southern states were better in terms of population control policies. They were able to control their population. So that became one of the reasons that today we have frozen the number of votes of MLAs. Even though the population is increasing, we are still going by the population figures of census of 1971. So as to not to further offend the South Indian states. Now you understand, uniformity in the scale of representation of different states is not followed in letter. Okay, today, not even in letter, not to talk about spirit. So if the criteria is further revised, if the latest census would be followed, then there will be further skewing of the North Indian states, skewing of the election of the president in favor of the North Indian states. Election will be further tilted towards the dominance of North Indian states. Okay, so to achieve this uniformity, this is the formula. This formula has been ditto asked in the examination. Okay, total population of state divided by total number of elected MLAs divided by 1000 for the sake of numerical simplicity only, so that number of zeros do not complicate the calculation. So this way you will get the value of vote of an MLA. Value of vote of an MLA, total population of state divided by total number of all the elected MLAs of that state. Okay, so determining the value of vote as per 1971, you will see the value of vote of an MLA from UP is 207, roughly 208, and value of vote of an MLA from Tamil Nadu is 176. Uniformity was required, but uniformity is not there in practice. in letter and in spirit today, right? Now, if we were to go by, let's assume, if we were to go by the figures of 2011 census, value of vote of an MLA from UP would be 403 MLAs are there. Okay, 5 lakh, I mean, 20 crore population approximately, divided by 403 MLAs will give you the value of vote to be around 500. Whereas the value of vote of Tamil Nadu, a southern state, has also increased. But see the gap widening. Earlier the gap was 208, and this is as per 1971, and this is 176. Okay, gap is of 32. Here the gap is of 192. So the gap has widened between 1971 and 2011. That is why the freeze is going to be there. Let's see what happens in the coming elections. That's a separate issue. So I hope this formula and everything is clear. Now, how do we arrive at the value of vote of an MP? After arriving the value of vote of all the MLAs of all the states, we have the total value of votes of all the MLAs. Okay, then we divide it by total number of elected MPs. Okay, so this way we have the value of vote of all the MLAs. We cannot say that value of vote of one MLA is equal to value of vote of another MP. No, we can say that value of vote of all the MLAs is equal to value of vote of all the MPs. Simply we can say this. Yes, this is what we can say. Okay, so you should be careful about it. Value of vote of all the MLAs is equal to value of vote of all the MPs, but value of vote of any individual MLA is not equal to value of vote of any other MP. Can we say that value of vote of MLA from Punjab is equal to value of vote of MLA from Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Tamil Nadu? No, we cannot say that. Even though the constitution says that uniformity should be there. This much clarity you should have. Okay. Now, system of proportional representation. President's election is held in accordance with the system of proportional representation. What is the proportional representation here? So many critiques, they say that the proportional representation is a misnomer. Okay, proportional representation happens when there are communal elections. Okay, communal electorate is there in that kind of a sense, or when there are more than one candidates. But here the candidate is only one, so that's the problem here. Okay, by means of single transferable vote. The vote is single, but it is transferable in this manner. Okay, candidate 1, my first preference vote goes to, let's say, candidate 1, John Citizen. If I'm casting the vote as an MP, my second preference is Mary Hill. Okay, so my vote is single, but it depends upon what round of counting is going on. Or if for example, if my John Citizen, my first choice, gets eliminated in the first round, he's scored the least number of votes. Okay, then my second preference vote will be counted. So my vote is getting transferred. That is why we use the term single transferable vote. Okay, so since this is a prelims oriented class, I will definitely explain it in the detailed manner whenever the situation, the circumstances, the opportunity comes to me to teach you guys on YouTube here in the detailed manner. So here we are just revising. I'm explaining you the meaning of the terms like single transferable vote, proportional representation, in a manner that you are able to revise. Now the voting is by secret ballot. Okay, why the voting is by secret ballot? Do we have the party whip? Do we have the party whip applicable to the election of the president? Please answer in the comment section. Okay, the system ensures that the successful candidate is returned by absolute majority. So do we follow the system of first past the post transfer, the voting system? Answer this also. No, we follow this. The successful candidate is returned by absolute majority of votes. This absolute majority number is determined by Election Commission of India. A candidate, in order to be declared elected to the office of the president, must secure a fixed quota of votes. The quota of votes is determined by dividing the total number of valid votes polled by the candidate, number of candidates to be elected. Okay, how do we determine, how does Election Commission of India determine the quota of votes? It is determined by dividing the total number of valid votes polled by the number of candidates to be elected. Okay, plus 1. So here there is only one candidate to be elected. So 50% plus 1 turns out to be the number. Okay, you see here, total number of valid votes polled divided by 1 plus 1, 2. So 50% will come, divided by 2, plus 1 additional vote he has to secure. So two takeaways: we do not follow the system of first past the post uh, election system, the voting system, okay, counting system here. So this is there. This is the number to be secured by winning candidate. Okay, so plus adding 1 to the quotient. So you should be knowing about the formula in detail. This is just a revision class, so I hope you get what are we revising. Now, certain important points. Election Commission has permitted Rajya Sabha XYZ number of Rajya Sabha, and this was from a news clipping, and 41 Lok Sabha MLAs to cast vote from their assemblies. So this is of the excerpt of the latest election. Takeaway is that on the request made by the particular MP or MLA that he wants to cast the vote from his native state, he is not in Delhi, being an MP. So he can cast the vote from Uttar Pradesh if he is in Uttar Pradesh. He is going to be in Uttar Pradesh on the date of election of the president. Right? There are some MLAs who get elected as MPs. There are some MPs like Yogi Adityanath. He became MLA and he became chief minister, even as he was holding the position of MP in Lok Sabha. Okay, 2017. So he was allowed to cast his vote from Uttar Pradesh instead of casting his vote from Delhi. Okay, so this goes on. Now, Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister and Goa Chief Minister, it was Manohar Parrikar that time. So they were allowed. So takeaway is members can cast vote from a place different from the one mandated. MP should cast vote from the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, but MP can be allowed to cast his vote from the native town. Now, there were 543 Lok Sabha MPs. This is how you can read it. This is all data. Okay. No party whip. As per the election rules, political parties cannot issue whip to an MP or MLA. So that is why many times the presidential candidates, they appeal to the voters, electoral college, to cast the vote on the basis of their own conscience. Okay, on the basis of their inner voice, who do they think they should cast their vote? That is why we have a secret ballot, so that political parties do not get to know that which MP is casting vote for their official candidate. If BJP has said that cast the vote for their presidential candidate, so maybe a BJP MP may not want to cast the vote for official presidential candidate of BJP. So that is why secret ballot and party whip, secret ballot is there, hence party whip is not going to be there. Okay, who is returning officer? The secretary general of the Lok Sabha for Lok Sabha, or secretary general of Rajya Sabha. Either of them, because the vote, either of them can be the returning officer. Once it is secretary general of Lok Sabha for one election. If in 2017 it was secretary general Lok Sabha, then in 2017 it was Lok Sabha, then in 2022 election to the president's office it will be secretary general of Rajya Sabha. Okay, rotation wise they go one each time. Okay, now serial numbered pens for voting so as to avoid Haryana type controversy. So pens are allotted by the Election Commission of India. What happens is these pens are so very that kind of a color of the pen is chosen, that so that party gets to know that MP or MLA had cast his vote in favor of the party's candidate or not. That is why all the pens provided by the Election Commission of India are of the same ink, so that the party whip, if issued informally, the party whip officer may not get to know about it. Okay, so this is the only thing. Now, presidential and vice presidential election rules are there under which the election is held. Only you should be knowing about this much. Article 55 of the Constitution provides that election shall be held in accordance with the system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. Okay, elector can mark as many preferences as the number of candidates. So here is the ballot paper I have shown you. Number of candidates is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can have 6 candidates. Is there nota in the presidential candidate? Answer the question. Okay, I will reveal the answer afterwards, but please answer Do we have the nota option in the presidential election or not? Okay, so do we have nota in the Rajya Sabha elections or not? Do answer these things. Now, the process of election, this is very detailed. You can go through it, transfer of votes, etc. Even though I have prima facie explained it to you, the votes keep on transferring until we choose the president who has secured the quota, minimum number of quota votes that is required for him to be declared as the president, right? Now, challenge to the presidential election. Within 30 days only, the challenge could be made. Okay, but you cannot make the challenge on the ground that the electoral college of the president of India was incomplete. All right, so this is there. If the election of the president of a person as the president is declared void by the Supreme Court, acts done by him before the date of such declaration by the Supreme Court are not invalidated. If the president imposed emergency, okay, later on his election was declared to be invalid on the ground that he had forged his papers, documents, or asset details, or anything. Okay, he was not a citizen of India, maybe before he went on to elections, went up for the elections, we were not aware. Or the ordinances passed by the president while his election was just held, okay, and within 30 days the election was challenged, and it stands declared by the Supreme Court that election was invalid. He need not be removed. He need not be impeached in that case. He would simply be declared as an ineligible candidate. Done. So within 30 days, petition can be filed only before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court bench that would be deciding this matter should have minimum 5 judges on the bench. Okay. Will that bench, 5-judge bench, be called as Constitution bench? No. Okay. So this is the issue here. Now, Constituent Assembly debates. Why did we choose this? We did not want the dual heads. So we chose the indirect election as the method because it gels up well with the parliamentary form of government. Okay, and the direct election, as in the USA, would have been very costly and time consuming. We have already opted for the parliamentary system. Having two heads, the prime minister and the president, would have led to the clash of egos, clash of two individuals. So that is why we chose the presidential system. These type of statements are themselves asked as a question. Another idea was that president should be elected by the two houses. This is a long debate. We need not go into it. Okay. Is the term proportional representation a misnomer? Yes. It was pointed out in the Constituent Assembly that why are we using the term this kind of a term. Okay. Generic meaning of proportional representation, it takes place when two or more seats are to be filled. Okay. Or communal representation kind of a thing is there. That system not being there being only one head, why are we saying that proportional representation will be there? There is only one president that needs to be elected. There are no communal electorate, right? In case of the president, the vacancy is only one. We should have better called it as preferential vote system or alternative vote system. Preferential vote system means the preference is shifting. The preference in the ballot paper is shifting from one candidate to another. So preference voting, preferential vote system, candidate A, B, C, vote is shifting on the basis of the round of counting. If the candidate A gets eliminated, candidate B, then candidate E may be who secures the highest number of votes. Is the expression single transferable vote a misnomer? Yes or no? But as I explained you, since the vote is getting transferred, it is a right term to be used. Now coming here, oath. Article 58 talks about the qualifications, oath of the office of the president. So qualifications, basically, he should be a citizen of India, 35 years of age. He should be qualified for elections as a member of Lok Sabha. He should not hold any office of profit. Okay. In Pranab Mukherjee's case, what happened? He was holding the office of chairperson of the Indian Statistical Office. Okay. So by virtue of him being the finance minister, a finance minister is holding so many positions that he himself was not aware that he forgot to resign from Indian Statistical Institute. Okay. So what happened? After he got elected, his opponent candidate of the BJP, P.A. Sangma, had filed a petition in the court. Okay, but once you get elected, uh, red carpet is there for you and red ink is also there for you. Later on in the dead of the night, he told the president of the chairperson of the Indian Statistical Institute, the deputy chairperson, to make my signatures, to mark my signatures and submit my resignation. Okay, so things were forged and he got elected ultimately. Petition was filed in the court and court said these don't seem to be your signatures. Pranab Mukherjee said these are my signatures. My hand was shivering because I'm an aged person. So it happened like my signatures may not match, but these are my signatures. So court accepted the resignation and he was able to continue as the president. Okay, so things happen. So he should not have been holding the office of president upon the date when he enters the office of the president. Okay, so that is the only requirement. Four requirements are there. Qualified for election as a member of Lok Sabha, he was already. Pranab Mukherjee example. Okay, a sitting president or vice president or the governor of any state or the minister of union or any state is not considered to be holding any office of profit. So the point here is once you get elected as the president, like Pranab Mukherjee, you can resign from your position as the member of, as the minister, as the president, as the vice president, or the governor. You need not you resign from your office of the governor or vice president before actually getting elected as the president. Okay. Nomination: 50 proposers, 50 electors, 50 MPs or MLAs you should have on your side. A presidential candidate should have the signatures that yes, he is a serious candidate and his name is being proposed by the 50 proposers and 50 electors. Otherwise, I would also want to contest the election of the president. At least that will give me a, a headline in the newspaper that Jatin Verma contests the presidential election. But before filing the nomination papers, I should have 50 electors, 50 MPs or 50 MLAs as the proposers and 50 MPs or 50 MLAs as the seconders. What do we mean by seconders here? That in their vote, I'm going to be the second choice. In their ballot paper, I'm going to be the second choice at least. Okay. Let me write my name. You never know. Sometimes ink becomes indelible on the funnier side. Okay. So you got my point? So first preference could be anyone. But in case of proposers, first preference would be me. Okay, the ones who are proposing my name. Maybe they change their name, the preference afterwards. But while I am filing the nomination paper, I need their signatures that see I am also a serious candidate. Okay, otherwise, every Tom, Dick, and Harry would want to contest the elections. Security deposit will be forfeited in case a candidate fails to secure 1/6 of the votes polled. Okay, the Presidential and Vice Presidential Election Act is there. Elections are held according to that. This security deposit amount has been revised from time to time and today it has been set at rupees 15,000. Earlier it used to be 2,500. Every time you change the limit, this election act has to be amended. Cool. So this is there. Now, oath or of the affirmation. So what is there in the oath? To faithfully execute the office. Okay. Then to preserve, protect and defend the constitution and the law. Not just the constitution. The laws enacted under the constitution are also to be defended, protected by the president. Okay. To preserve, protect and defend. So that means he will ensure that the constitutional machinery of the country, that the governance machinery of the country runs in accordance with the Constitution of India. Okay. Then to devote himself to the service and well-being of the people of India. Who was the president, you can recollect, who lived up to this purpose? To devote himself to the service and well-being of the people of India. People's president, none other than, you know the name, right? There have been the presidents like Pratibha Devi Singh Patil, who did not leave even a single scenery or poster that was gifted to her. When she left the president's office, 7 trucks, a convoy of 7 trucks, filled up with all the gifts and presents that she had gotten from all over the world while she visited the countries. She roamed around the world with her family while in the office of the president. And when she had left, she chose a residence made on the government money. When on the other hand, there was a president which these things are not relevant, but these make the lecture a little sweeter, spicier, and interesting. There was another president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He came with a bag and he left with a bag. The only thing that he got done for his personal taste was the two suits, not the personal taste. As a president of India, he got the two safari suits stitched. When the tailor asked him, why only two? He said, I am the president of a poor country where 40% of people are below poverty line. So, two safari suits are enough for me. Okay. So, we have seen godly creatures sometimes. Now, administration of oath is by the CJI. You should know this. CJI of India, in his absence, the senior most judge will administer the oath to the President of India. Any other person acting as the President or discharging the functions of the President also undertakes the similar oath or affirmation. So, for example, even if for 3 days or 4 days, the Vice President is going to act as the President, that Vice President will also have to take the oath of the President's office. What is the oath? To faithfully execute the office, to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, to devote himself to the service of the nation, right? And the people of the nation and well-being of the people. Now, can the president suspend any minister appointed under his hand and seal under this clause, under this provision of his speech oath? Any minister caught red-handed of corruption is doing some unconstitutional act. President's duty is to preserve, protect, and defend Constitution. This is the subject matter of our mains classes. As I said, someday definitely we'll decode this whole thing. Okay, Article 60 casts a duty upon the president to ensure the governance of the country happens in accordance with the Constitution. But what if in case it is not happening right under his nose? What to do? Meaning, moving further for the prelims part now, conditions of the president's office. The constitution lays down the following conditions. He should not be a member of either house of the parliament, done, even after electing. Now you should ask me, what is the difference between qualifications and conditions? Qualifications are something that you need to fulfill before actually getting elected, while filing your nomination papers, while just entering upon the office. Conditions are something that you live up to at all the times while being in the office of the president. That means if the president later on changes his mind and wants to contest the elections to the parliament, he cannot. He should not be a member of either house of the parliament or a house of the state legislature. If any such person is elected as the president, he is deemed to have vacated his seat on the date upon which he enters upon his office. Right? Immediately he would be. He should not hold any other office of profit, incumbent as well as candidate. He is entitled without the payment of rent to the greatest, the biggest, the largest house in the country. Residence we call it, okay, rise in a hill. He is entitled to such emoluments, allowances as determined by the parliament. So his emoluments are also determined by the parliament. Now you answer this in the comment section. Are his expenditures of office, are the president's expenditures charged on the consolidated fund of India? Okay, now coming here, to ensure his independence, following points have been provided for. His emoluments and allowances cannot be diminished during his term of office. Okay, he enjoys the personal immunity, personal immunity, not the official, but for his official acts only. If he murders someone, if he indulges in corruption scandal, later on he cannot defend it as a legal immunity. Then he will be prosecuted. But for official acts, he cannot be given any punishment. He cannot be sued in the court of law for his official acts. Okay. Meaning thereby, if he signs a check and borrows a loan, for example, and the check bounces because he is unable to pay the loan, that is his personal act of crime or civil offense. For that, he will be prosecuted in the court of law. But if he signs a check as the president of India, not as the individual personal capacity, then he will be protected by the immunity that he is getting, because he signed it maybe on the aid and advice of Council of Ministers. He borrowed a loan for India as the president of India from World Bank. Did he use it for his personal and enjoyment? No. Okay, he cannot be arrested or imprisonment. However, after giving him 2 months notice, civil proceedings can be initiated against him. Okay, so he will be given the sufficient period of 2 months to defend himself, but civil proceedings can be initiated against him during the term of his office for his personal acts also. So can the criminal proceedings be started against him while he is in the office? No. Okay, after he resigns, criminal proceedings would be initiated, but till the time he is in the office, no criminal proceedings whatsoever will be initiated against him. Civil proceedings, check bounce, etc., will proceed. Okay, criminal angle will not be initiated. Now, impeachment, vacancy, term, impeachment and vacancy. Article 56 talks about the term, that is 5 years. Okay, in case he can resign from his office, in case he chooses to resign, the vice president will be the person who will accept his resignation letter. So president can tender his resignation to the vice president. Okay, vacancy, there should be no vacancy in the office of the president. It is the only office in the country for which this legal stipulation is there. Okay, no vacancy. President can hold the office beyond his term of the 5 years if, for example, due to any extraneous circumstances, India China rivalry, war, India Pakistan war, the the elections to the office of the president are not held on time. Okay, elections process starts 6 months before the president actually retires, 6 months before his resignation. Okay, 5 years until his successor assumes charge. So, if due to national emergency, president's election is not happening, law and order issue, the incumbent president can continue to be in office. Okay. Article 57, eligibility for re-election. He is also eligible for re-election to that office. He may be elected for any number of terms. In India, this kind of a system is not there, right? That president can contest. US type system is not there, that president can be there only for 2 terms, no upper limit on the number of terms for which a president could be elected in India. Okay, so this is there. Now article 61 talks about the removal. The technical term used for removal is the impeachment. The president can also be removed before completion of his term. Grounds for removal: violation of the constitution. So in the oath of the president we saw protect, preserve, protect and defend the constitution. Okay, here if he happens to violate the constitution in any manner, corruption, canvassing, lobbying, anything of that nature, so he will be impeached for violation of the constitution. However, the constitution does not define the meaning of the phrase violation. Important for prelims. Okay, not this year, otherwise no such impeachment proceeding has happened this year, so there is no trigger factor in the current affairs. You should focus only on the things that were in the news with regard to the office of the president, and that makes me help you remind Bharat Ratnas. Right, if everything is going fine in the country, no office of profit bill like Pranab Mukherjee, APJ Abdul Kalam sir's time. Okay, so then everything is all okay. You should just revise this topic for article 74, aid and advise, article 78, right, those type of things. Now past incidents: President Rajendra Prasad used to have some issues with Nehru, Gyani Zail Singh would have some issues with Rajiv Gandhi, so those things are there. That is a part of our mains discussion. Now article 78, duties of prime minister as respect informing the providing the information to the president for any decision that the government has taken, to communicate to the president all the decisions of the council of ministers relating to the administration of the affairs of union and proposals for legislation, to furnish such information relating to the administration of the affairs of the union and proposals for legislation as the president may call for. If the president so requires, to submit for the consideration of the council of ministers any matter on which a decision has been taken by a minister but which has not been considered by the council. Okay, if the president so requires, to submit for the consideration of the council of ministers. So there could be instances where the president unilaterally takes a decision. So president becomes the via media, president becomes the conduit through which the Prime Minister's duty of informing the Council of Ministers will be performed. Collective decision making will be preserved by the office of the President. So, if the President so requires to submit for the consideration to furnish any such information relating to the administration of affairs of the Union, and any proposal, even if the legislation is at the draft stage, that also need to be informed to the President. Okay, so in 1980s this happened. Let's not go into that. You can just read it. PPT will be shared on the Telegram channel, Jatin Verma sir, PW Only IS, the link of which will be given in the description. All right. Now, procedure for impeachment. The impeachment charges can be initiated by either house of the parliament, either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. One house initiates the proceeding, other house investigates the charges. These charges should be signed by 1/4 of the members of the house. Okay, if it is Lok Sabha, 1/4 of the total strength of Lok Sabha. If it is Rajya Sabha, 1/4 of the total strength of Rajya Sabha. Okay, charges should be signed by that framed the charges. At a 14 days notice should be given to the president to defend himself. Then a resolution will be taken up after the investigation is done to remove the president. And the process is so very tough that 2/3 of the majority of total membership, 2/3 of the total membership is required. Okay, not the 2/3 of the present and voting, but 2/3 of the total membership of that house. It is sent to the other house which should investigate the charges. The president has the right to appear or to be represented at such investigation. Done? So read this part carefully, even though on the basis of the trigger factor phenomena that I always say, this topic is not as important. Okay, so there is no provision for the joint sitting of the or the removal of the president. No Article 108. Both the houses will sit separately. Done? Now, if the other house also sustains the charges and passes the impeachment resolution. So the process is, first house will pass the impeachment resolution, then it will be sent to the other house. The other house will start investigation. If after investigation the other house also sustains the charges and passes a resolution, then the president will be impeached ultimately. Okay, there is no provision for joint sitting. The impeachment is a quasi judicial procedure. Why quasi judicial? Why semi judicial? Because the charges are going to be investigated. The accused, that is the president in this case, will be given an opportunity to defend himself. Okay, so this is the issue here. Now, special majority as under Article 61 needed for removal. It requires a majority of 2/3 of the total membership. The difficult of the difficult procedure. Okay, so this is there. Now, in this context, two things are important. Even though the nominated members of each house of the parliament do not participate, but they do not participate in the election, but they participate in the impeachment of the president. The elected members of the legislative assemblies of the states and UTs of Delhi and Puducherry do not participate in the removal of the president, though they participate in his election. Okay. So, Constituent Assembly debates, Council of Ministers to aid and advise the President. This is the most important article of the Constitution. Okay, one of the most important. Repetitively, the questions would be asked out of it. Okay, there shall be a Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister at the head to aid and advise the President, who shall, in the exercise of his functions, act in accordance with such advice, provided that the President may require the Council of Ministers to reconsider such advice, either generally or formally, or specifically with regard to a particular clause in the bill. For instance, Farm Law Ordinance, Office of Prophet Sonia Gandhi and Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam sir. Right? The question whether any, and if so, what advice was tendered, shall not be inquired into the court of law. So the decisions, the exchange of parlays, the exchange of information between the president and the council of ministers shall not be discussed in the court of law. Okay, discussion is still fine. Investigation, why this proposal was sent, why did he send it back, those kind of questions, inquiry into that question, questioning those questions, Questioning the pieces of advice is not allowed. Okay, these 2 points very very important. Article 74, since it is okay. So this is the B.N. Rao, the Constituent Assembly's advisor, etc. Not going into it for the heck of, for the reason that our prelims is there. Vacancy. A vacancy in the president's office can occur in these ways: on the expiry of his tenure of 5 years, but before this, election needs to be concluded, right? By his resignation, on his removal, by his death, whenever he becomes disqualified, or when his election is declared void. 5 scenarios, one is taken care of. Okay. Second, if he resigns, vice president. If vice president also resigns, then CJI. Okay. So that is there. So there should be no gap, no interregnum in the office of the president. Okay. The election to fill the vacancy must be held before the expiry of his term of 5 years. In case of delay in conducting the elections of any by any reason, outgoing president should continue to hold. This is provided by the constitution to prevent this interregnum. Okay. In the situation where the abrupt vacancy happens, vice president does not get the opportunity to act as the president to discharge the functions of the president. Okay. In what situation? When the delay in the elections is there. Otherwise, vice president will become. Okay. If the office falls vacant by resignation, removal, death, or otherwise, then the election should be held within 6 months. This is written in the constitution. Okay. The newly elected president remains in office for a full term of 5 years and from the date he assumes charge. Okay, it should not be the case that if the previous vice president, outgoing vice president, continued for 7 years, then the term of the new president would be curtailed to 3 years. No, he will continue for the full term, 5 years. Okay, now, vice president, if the death of the president happens, okay, resignation, etc., abrupt vacancy, then vice president. When the sitting president is unable to discharge his functions due to absence, vice president. Okay, if the vice president's office is also vacant, then chief justice. If the chief justice is also vacant, then senior most judge of the Supreme Court. And we have 30 judges. So senior, senior, second senior, third senior, fourth senior, likewise. By the time the election will be held. Okay. So they have to take the oath. Even if the Supreme Court judge is sitting as the vice president, then he should also subscribe to the oath. Vice president should also. And they get the same level of immunity, perks, and emoluments as the president. Okay. So, powers and duties of the president, constitutional duties. Executive power of the union shall be exercised by the president in his name and warrant under his hand and seal. Okay. Executive power shall be exercised by the president in accordance with aid and advice of Council of Ministers. This is what we have just said. Then these are the executive powers: legislative, financial power, judicial power, diplomatic, emergency powers. I'll be studying them in the next class along with the governor. Governor juxtaposed. Okay. So today's agenda is this president. Now, Article 77, conduct of business of Government of India, Article 75, all these things will be taken care of in the next class. Alright guys. So this is all for now. We'll be meeting again. We'll be dealing with the president and some part of the governor and then vice president. For this today's class, this was the agenda. We'll be incorporating the questions. More often than not, the questions around the legislative powers, pardoning power, they have been cross-fertilized in the sense that they have been asked by mixing the section of president and the governor together. So we'll be incorporating those type of questions as well. For now, thank you. Bye-bye. I take your leave. See you in the next class, day after tomorrow. Every alternate day, we are uploading the Udaan classes. Thank you. Bye-bye.